Genya is wearing a black wedding dress and holding two intertwined candles. She walks inside the church full of sculpted mannequins. They stand as an audience to the union before them. Genya walks up to the altar where Kirill is waiting for her. Genya is a seamstress and a designer. She is helping her client try a wedding dress. Meanwhile, the woman, Sonia, goes on about how excited she is for her upcoming wedding. She shows a picture of a church to Genya. It is where Sonia's getting married. She bets that Genya looked beautiful on her wedding day as well. Genya stops her work on the dress for a moment. She looks sad, but quickly regains composure. She tells Sonia that she never had a wedding. Not wanting to talk more about it, she instructs the other woman to stay still, as Genya works on her dress. Suddenly, Sonia's to-be husband, Victor, enters the changing room. Sonia tries to hide from him, since it is bad luck for the groom to see the bride in the wedding dress before the day. The man simply tells her he does not believe in all those superstitions. He asks how much longer she will take. Sonia introduces Victor and Genya. A baby cries in the distance, and Victor stands next to her crib. It is Genya's daughter. Victor asks Genya to continue working, while he pacifies the crying baby. Genya watches as her daughter stops crying the moment the man picks her up. At night, Genya tries calling her boyfriend over and over, but the man never answers. She takes her daughter and walks to Kirill's studio. Kirill is a sculptor and an artist. When the woman walks inside the studio, she is heartbroken to find her boyfriend getting intimate with another woman. Genya runs away from there, and Kirill seems extremely angry. He yells at her for coming there, when he specifically told her not to. With her baby girl wrapped in her arms, Genya keeps on running away. The next morning, Genya's back at the factory, working. She cannot stop thinking about Kirill and what she saw the night before. Genya tries to hide her tears from her colleague, but the lady catches her. She asks Genya what happened to her. Genya confides in the lady about her boyfriend's indiscretions. Kate tells Genya to not be silly. She cannot change what happened. Her boyfriend will love her more now than he did before. She asks Genya to not acknowledge what she saw. It could happen to anyone. Genya cannot seem to wrap her mind around that. At home, Genya looks at the pictures of her that Kirill had sketched back when he was still in love with the woman. She cries as she mourns the man he used to be. Her mother takes the sketches away and asks Genya to stop torturing herself like that. She cannot force the man to stay. She should forget about the man and move on. Genya tells her that she does not want her daughter, Polina, to grow up without a father. Everyone makes mistakes. Her mother hands her a cup of warm drink and reasons with the girl. She cannot force the man to love her unless Genya casts a love spell on him. Genya looks at her mother as she considers her words. Genya goes to Kirill's house. The man lives in a big mansion. Alina, Kirill's mother, greets Genya outside the house. The woman asks why Genya is there. Genya just came to drop off Kirill's belongings. He promised to stop by and pick his stuff up, but Kirill has been ignoring Genya's calls for 3 days. Alina derisively remarks that she was under the impression that Genya always knew where Kirill was and with whom. Genya cannot meet the woman's eye. She drops the bags outside and leaves. When Genya finds Kirill, he is with another woman, getting ready to leave on his bike. Genya tells him they need to talk. Reluctantly, Kirill agrees. He steps aside to talk to her, and Genya tells him that he can keep seeing the other girls, if that is what he wants for his creative side, but he cannot leave her. Polina needs a father. The two of them can handle that. Kirill snaps at her and tells her that there is no the two of them. She is suffocating him. Genya pointedly reminds him of their daughter. Kirill does not care about that. Genya doesn't own him, just because he got her pregnant. Genya loses her temper and smacks the man. Kirill pushes her away, wiping the blood on a cloth. He throws the cloth at her and tells her to get out of there. He then goes away with the other woman. Genya picks up the blood-stained piece of cloth and leaves. That night, Genya arrives at an eerie-looking house. It is the dark spellcaster's house. As she makes her way through the hallways, she finds children running around amok, and the adults in the house give her suspiciously creepy stares. Genya keeps walking until she enters the kitchen. A huge piece of animal meat lies on the countertop. While Genya inspects her surroundings, a woman walks in. She begins slicing the meat, and without any introductions, she starts talking to Genya. The woman had been waiting for Genya. She asks Genya to help her. Genya mimics the woman's actions. The woman asks Genya to be honest with her. Does she love Kirill, or is she doing this out of pride, and is willing to be with him forever? Genya nods with surety. The woman asks if Genya has a friend who is getting married soon, because for what is coming next, Genya needs a couple who is getting married. One whose love is extraordinarily strong, since spirits feed on true feelings. Genya should be careful not to trick them, because she cannot afford it. The woman lays down 2 pieces of candle, a jar of salt, and some written instructions for Genya. She tells her to learn the instructions by heart. She should not change the order or stumble while speaking. And Genya must perform this spell in a church, because it is easier to reach the spirits there. It must be done during the wedding of her friend. Genya seems hesitant, but she is determined to have Kirill back. The woman takes hold of Genya's hand and warns her that if she had lied to her and her love is fake, the spirits will not forgive her. But if Kirill loves her, he will come back. The woman makes a large gash in Genya's palm. Genya panics and tries to free her hand from the lady. The lady tells her that the blood will make the spell stronger. She places a piece of meat that Genya cut into her hand and tells her to cast the spell until the meat is spoiled. Genya is scared to be in the woman's presence. She grabs her stuff and hurries out of there. The woman tells her that the two lovers will be bound by blood, unless Genya changes her mind. Later, Genya sings a lullaby to her daughter as she puts Polina to sleep. She promises the infant that her father will be back soon. The next day, Genya goes to a wedding. She sneaks in through the back and enters the church. It is Sonia and Victor's wedding. While Sonia is walking inside the church, a man named Oleg stops her. Sonia is surprised to see him there. She gives him a disapproving look and tells him he should not have been there. Oleg is disappointed to see Sonia go. Genya sneaks inside the church and waits. She watches from the top floor as the wedding ceremony begins. Sonia enters the church, looking beautiful and radiant. A flower girl throws flowers in front of her. Oleg, who is sitting in the audience, watches her with longing and sadness. When the priest begins the ceremony, Genya begins casting the spell. She spreads the salt in all 4 directions, and then begins reciting the words the spellcaster woman had given her. She intertwines the 2 pieces of candles and pours droplets of her blood, mixing it in Kiril's blood-stained cloth, which she had retrieved from him the day she confronted him. As Victor and Sonia get married, Genya and the dark spellcaster cast their spell. The spell starts taking effect. Kiril is working on a sculpture in his studio when the spell starts to affect him. To complete the spell, Genya eats a piece of the raw meat the woman had given her. The ceremony of Victor and Sonia's wedding is complete. After they exchange the rings and kiss, they are pronounced husband and wife by the priest at the same time as Genya's spell's full effect starts to take place. Genya starts to get sick, and Kiril loses consciousness. Sonia's nose starts to bleed. The woman worries about it being a bad omen, but Victor assures her it is just nerves. Oleg gets worried too, but the man cannot do anything. As the two walk out of the church, Genya does too. She is feeling sicker by the second. The woman pushes her way through the crowd, but loses consciousness right in front of the church steps as Victor and Sonia bear witness. Victor rushes to Genya's aid, and the whole ordeal distresses Sonia. At the hospital, as Sonia waits outside Genya's room, she cries into Oleg's shoulder. This is an unbelievably bad sign for a newly married couple. Sonia cannot help but feel scared. Victor, being a doctor, treats Genya. When the woman regains consciousness, she apologizes for ruining his wedding day. Victor checks up on her and tells her to stay put for another day before leaving the hospital. As Victor leaves her room and is headed to find his wife, he hears sounds coming from a closet. When he opens the door, he finds Sonia and Oleg getting intimate. Sonia pulls away from the other man when she sees her husband, but Victor is utterly dejected. He walks away from the room. Sonia catches up to him and begs him to forgive her. She doesn't know how it happened. The woman cries and cries, but Victor shrugs her hand away and leaves. Late at night, a storm brews outside. The hospital lights shut down one by one. Genya lies asleep in her hospital room when suddenly the window opens. The woman wakes up with a start. She stands up and closes the window, but notices that there is dirt on the sill. The lights flicker around her, and she turns to find Kiril walking in through the door. Genya is surprised to see him. She asks what he is doing there. Kiril seems like he is lost and acting under a spell. He tells Genya that he dreamt of her, and in his dream, she was calling to him. He spent the entire day thinking about her. He asks for her forgiveness, telling her that she was right. They should be together, and they will get through this. Genya forgives the man, and the two kiss as they reunite. Kiril carries Genya in his arms and walks her outside. There is a huge smile on Genya's face as she sits behind him on his bike. The two spend a romantic night in Kiril's studio. The next morning, Genya wakes up in a big bed in the middle of the studio. Kiril's sculptures are all around the room. As Genya observes them, Kiril grabs her from behind, scaring the lady. He turns her around and looks at her like he is seeing her for the first time. He tells her she looks beautiful like a bride. He makes her stand under the light and then draws her on the canvas. Suddenly, Genya's phone rings. It is her mother calling her home. Genya tells Kiril that something happened during the storm, and they need to get Polina. Genya had left her daughter with her mother during the time she was away. Kiril and Genya ride on his bike to Genya's mother's house. A window in her living room got shattered due to the storm the night before. Kiril boards up the window with a plank of wood and promises to fix it later. Genya invites her mother to stay with them until her window gets fixed. Her mother does not want to bother the two with her presence, but Genya insists. She goes to bring her daughter from the other room. Kiril, who is hammering nails into the plank, tells Genya's mother that she would be bothering them if she stays with them. He says it angrily that it scares the other woman a little bit. When Genya returns, her mother insists that she should stay at home. She got scared by the way Kiril spoke to her. The woman asks her daughter to stay with her for a few days, but Genya tells her that she would love to spend some time with Kiril and Polina back at home. There is a dark look in Kiril's eyes as he continues working. Back at his studio, Zhenya sits as a model for Kirill while he sculpts. The man struggles to perfect his sculpture, but he cannot seem to do it. Zhenya's face is much more perfect in real life. He just does not get it. He touches Zhenya's face with clay hands to inspect it. The woman tells him she needs to get to work, but Kirill is lost in his head. He covers Zhenya's face with liquid clay as he uses her as a model. He tells her that she should not work anymore. It distracts her, and nobody should distract them. They should always be together. He covers her entire face with clay. When the baby starts to cry, Zhenya tries to move, but Kirill tells her to stay put. He goes to tend to his crying daughter and drapes a cloth over her crib. He returns to where Zhenya is lying motionless. Her entire face is covered in plaster, and she can only breathe through her nose. The man then makes love to her. When Zhenya gets to work later, she finds Sonia talking with her colleague, Kate. Sonia is there to return the dress. When she sees Zhenya, the woman gets upset and shoves the dress back at Zhenya's colleague. Zhenya tries to ask what's wrong, but Sonia does not want to talk. She blames Zhenya for Victor breaking up with her on their wedding day. Zhenya sits down at her desk, exhausted and upset about Sonia's wedding. She calls the spellcaster woman, but a lot of disturbing noises come from the other end. The woman tells Zhenya that the man is Zhenya's, just as she wanted. The call disconnects. Suddenly, Zhenya feels shooting pains in her stomach. The images of the spell being cast flashes past her mind. The woman hears someone crying. She turns around, but finds herself alone in the basement room. The noise is coming from behind the rack of clothes, next to her. Zhenya approaches it carefully. She walks out the other side from between the rack, and follows the sound. She notices the noise coming from between one of the other racks. What she presumes to be a mannequin, hanging between the rack dressed as a bride, turns out to be a deceased bride. The bride opens her eyes and grabs Zhenya. The woman shrieks and steps away. The next second, the bride is gone, as if it were never there. Kate comes in behind her, asking if the woman is okay. The woman informs Zhenya that since Victor's credit card was used to pay for the dress, they are going to have to refund the money to him. Distracted by what had just happened, Zhenya mumbles a response. At night, when Zhenya gets home, the house is suspiciously quiet. She rushes up to her room and finds the bed in disarray. Even Polina is not there. Zhenya hurries out to Kirill's studio. There she finds her daughter, crying in the corner of the room. She grabs the crying infant and finds Kirill in the room. She pins him with an appalled look and berates him for leaving their daughter alone like that. She had thought the man had changed and that he loved them. Kirill carefully makes his way toward her, making sure to not step on the masks he has laid down on the floor of the studio. He tells Zhenya that he does love her, but she is never with him. She is always busy and going places, leaving him alone. He tells her they need to eliminate everything that is stopping them from being together. He gets down on his knees and begs her to not leave him again. Zhenya tells him she is his, but not his property. Kirill looks at her with a dangerous look in his eye. She is his wife, she must stay with him. Zhenya tells him she is not his wife. The man slams his sculpturing tool onto a clay mask, and it breaks. Zhenya steps away from him, afraid of what he can do. Kirill apologizes to her. He did not mean to scare her. But Zhenya realizes now that something has gone wrong. The next day, Zhenya is working when Kirill calls her. Her mother took Polina away for the day, and Kirill wants to have lunch with Zhenya. The woman tells him she has a lot of work to do, and hangs up. Victor comes to the factory that day to address the issue with his card. Kate tells him that they can refund the money to him, but the man tells her to keep the money. Kate tells him that his bride asked for a refund. Victor sternly tells her that she is not his bride. He asks them to return the money to Sonia. Zhenya witnesses this exchange. She goes to Victor to talk to him, since she feels terrible about what happened. She takes him to the side so that the two can speak. She apologizes to the man. She had thought that the couple was really in love. Victor tells her he had felt that as well, but he was wrong. Kirill calls Zhenya again, and the woman silences his call. She tells Victor that she feels guilty about what she did to them. She is about to confess about the spell and everything, but Victor stops her midway. What happened, happened. It does not matter to him anymore. He points at a dress and asks if Zhenya made it. The woman smiles and nods. The two of them reach for the fabric, and their hands touch. Victor holds Zhenya's hand for a beat too long, and then leaves. But Zhenya stays put. Then suddenly, she feels someone grabbing her hands from between the row of clothes. She gasps and pulls away. The hands vanish the next instant, but Zhenya is hit with intense pain in her abdomen. Victor comes to her rescue. He leads her outside and settles her in his car. Zhenya notices Kirill's bike outside the door. Just when Victor is about to sit inside his car, Kirill attacks him. The two men tackle each other. As Zhenya tries to stop Kirill, he pushes her away. Victor manages to subdue the man, and Zhenya tells him that Victor is a doctor who was just helping her. When Kirill calms down, Victor frees him. He hands Kirill a medical band-aid for his wounded hand and leaves. Kirill apologizes to Zhenya. He doesn't know what came over him. Zhenya tells him she needs to pick up Polina from her mother's place. Kirill offers her a ride. But on their way, Zhenya realizes he is not taking her to her mother's house. Instead, he brings her to his mother's place. Zhenya is shocked. The woman hates her. Why did Kirill bring her there? Inside the house, Kirill's parents and the other couple are sitting around the dinner table in awkward silence. Kirill knows that his mother had never liked Zhenya, but he is going to change things now. He announces that he is going to marry Zhenya. His mother admonishes him. Zhenya is stunned. She needs time to think about it. Kirill's mother laughs at that, but Kirill silences her. Kirill acts maniacally. He asks his mother for the ring. His dad starts to interfere, but the man gets mad. He yells at his mother to give him the ring. The woman refuses. It is a family heirloom, and it will be given to someone she deems worthy. Kirill stands up and takes his mother's hand. He kisses her finger, and before anyone can tell what he is doing, the man pries the ring off her finger with a scissor. The lady screams in agony. Kirill's dad tries to fight the man, but he is on a mission. Kirill takes the ring and puts it on a very terrified Zhenya's finger. The woman is shaking with fear. Kirill's father tackles the man to the ground and asks Zhenya to run. The woman runs away, but the front gate's close. Kirill comes from behind her, demanding where she is running off to. He tells her that her daughter is fine. Zhenya turns to him with fearful eyes. At that moment, she doubts her daughter is with her mother. Zhenya reaches Kirill's studio, with the man on her heels. She finds her crying infant lying in a bathtub, surrounded by sculptures. Zhenya hugs her daughter in her protective embrace. Kirill tries to reason with her that he did this because Zhenya is his, just like she had wanted. Zhenya cries that this is not what she wanted. She wanted him to love her, but she has made a mistake. She promises to fix her mistake, but Kirill tells her that he loves her. There has been no mistake. Zhenya is scared and just wants to leave. She tells him that he doesn't love her. She cast a spell to bind him to her. She made him love her, but she will fix it. When Kirill backs away, Zhenya tries to escape, but the man blocks her again. He shushes her and takes her cheek in his palm. He tells her that he is hers and she is his. And then, he smashes her head to the pillar and Zhenya faints. When Zhenya wakes up, she is in a bathtub covered in white plaster. She can hear her daughter wailing. The woman stirs awake, but she cannot move. Her body is stuck in the cement. Zhenya wills herself to move and manages to stand up, despite the plaster holding her in place. When Kirill notices the commotion, he goes to check on Zhenya, but the woman is no longer inside the tub. He searches for her in the room, but she surprises him by hitting him on the head from behind. Zhenya runs to get baby Polina and then rushes out of the place. She outruns him and reaches the main road. A woman hits the brakes on her car just before it could hit Zhenya. She screams at her for being irresponsible, but then later gives the scared woman a ride in her car. Kirill follows the car on his bike. The two get into a chase, and it scares Zhenya. She holds her daughter tighter as the woman manages to dodge the man just in time. Later, Zhenya sits under the water inside a bathtub and cries. She throws away the ring Kirill put on her. When she emerges from the bathroom, she enters Victor's living room. She sought refuge with the man. Victor is holding Polina as the baby plays with him. The next morning, Zhenya wakes up at Victor's house. She is happy to see her daughter safe and sound next to her. Zhenya looks around the house and sees a picture of Victor and Sonia turned face down on the table. She goes in search of the man and finds him getting dressed in his room. He comes out and Zhenya thanks him for letting her stay. She apologizes for showing up in the middle of the night. The man assures her that it is no big deal. He went shopping for diapers and formula for her daughter. Zhenya is touched by the hospitality. He tells her to stay put until he gets back home. At the hospital, Sonia shows up. She wants to talk to the man, but Victor shuts her out. He gets into the elevator, where his fellow doctor tells the woman that the lift is at full capacity. The doors close, but Sonia keeps shouting that she will not leave until they talk. Victor thanks the other man for helping him. There is a patient on the gurney with his face covered. The doctor tells Victor that the man got into a motorcycle accident, and it was brutal. The shaking of the lift causes the patient's hand to fall to the side, and Victor notices a bandage on it. He gets suspicious about something and lifts the cloth off the face of the man. He is shocked to see Kirill. Back at his house, Zhenya is resting when she hears the window open. She goes to close it, but sees dirt on the otherwise squeaky clean sill. She closes the window and turns around to hear noise coming from the bathroom. She goes inside the room and looks around, but nothing is there. She searches the shower, but is relieved to find nothing. The woman turns and gasps in horror as she sees a man, his face covered in white plaster, holding a baby in his arms. He is standing right outside the bathroom door, and the door closes on its own. Zhenya struggles to get the door open. Panicking, she finally gets out and grabs her crying daughter. She holds her protectively and looks around. The door opens and Victor returns home. When he sees Zhenya crying and shaking with fear, he looks around the house but sees no one. Zhenya tells him Kirill was there, she is sure of it. Victor looks at her sympathetically and tells her about Kirill's passing away. Victor brings Zhenya to the morgue. When Zhenya sees Kirill, she feels sick with grief and shock. Victor comforts her. She asks the doctors to give her a moment alone with Kirill, and they leave. Zhenya realizes that last night when the woman had dodged Kirill, he must have gotten into an accident. She apologizes to the body of the man and cries. She just could not let him go. Suddenly, Kirill grabs Zhenya's hand. The woman shrieks as the man's eyes open. They are completely charcoal gray, no whites. He grabs Zhenya and pulls her on top of him. The two get locked inside the morgue locker. Zhenya screams and shouts to be let out, but no one hears her. Kirill's deceased body moves behind her, and Zhenya is terrified. She somehow manages to get out of the locker. She washes her face in the washroom and checks on the still healing wound on her palm. She can feel something is very wrong, but Zhenya does not know what to do. At the reception, while Zhenya fills out forms for Kirill, Victor tries to console her. Zhenya starts to get sick again. Victor grabs her and supports her, asking her to stay at the hospital when Sonia shows up. She sees the two together and assumes the worst. She blames Zhenya for being around Victor all the time. Victor asks the lady to leave, but she thinks Zhenya should be the one to leave. Zhenya agrees. She thanks Victor and apologizes to Sonia once again before leaving. Sonia calls after her to not expect Victor to marry. Victor tells the woman that Zhenya's husband died that day, and Sonia shuts up. Victor drives Zhenya to the spellcaster's house. While in the car, Zhenya came clean to the man. She tells him about how she cast a spell on his wedding day, but since none of their feelings were true, everything went wrong. Victor assures the lady that everything will be fine. At the spellcaster's house, Victor and Zhenya find the woman. She tells Zhenya that she summoned an extraordinarily strong demon. But since Zhenya lied to her, and her love was not true, the demon was rewarded with rotten meat. The woman pushes the bucket of meat toward Zhenya, and it reeks. Zhenya wants to fix her mistake, but the spellcaster tells her some mistakes can never be fixed. But she can try. Victor will have to summon the demon instead of Zhenya. Victor cannot believe this. The spellcaster asks the man why he married Sonia. He made a mistake doing that. Victor retorts that his only mistake was coming there. Then why is he there? The woman asks him to think. Victor looks at Zhenya. He does not say it, but he is here for the woman. He has come to care for her over the short time they have known each other. Victor agrees to help. The spellcaster seats him down on a chair, while Zhenya waits outside. The woman asks her to enter when the time comes. She draws Victor's blood, like she did with Zhenya, and lets the drops fall on the rotten meat. Then covering the bucket with a dark cloth, she pushes it aside. The woman begins the summoning, and instructs Victor to stay still. She begins her chanting, and Zhenya sees an old woman in the shadows. She is there one moment, and gone the next. Inside the room, the spirit rises from the bucket, covered completely in the dark cloth, and takes control of Victor's body. The man screams internally, but overtly, he has been possessed. The spellcaster calls forth her master. He commands Zhenya to enter. The woman enters the room, and sees that Victor has been possessed. The spellcaster asks him why he is hunting Zhenya. The demon replies that it is because the woman summoned him, and now he wants her soul. She promised it to him when she lit those candles, and cast the spell. He will take all that he has been promised. The demon stands up from the chair, scaring both women, and walks to the mirror. He breaks the glass and takes a piece of it. He tries to harm Victor, whose body he possesses, but before he can, Zhenya jumps up at him to stop him. When he tries to hurt Zhenya, the spellcaster tries to protect her, but the demon throws her back. He is about to kill Zhenya when an old lady bursts through the doors. She curses the demon and chants a spell to temporarily subdue him. When everything calms down, she angrily looks at the three people in the room. They all belong to the demon now, and it is only a matter of time until he returns. Victor returns to his senses. He bandages his wound, while he tells Zhenya about her mistake. Kirill died because of her. Zhenya wants to fix it all, but she needs Victor's help. Victor does not want to be involved in this. He leaves. While the doctor returns to the hospital, Zhenya goes to the church at night. At the hospital, Sonia falls asleep outside Victor's office, while she is waiting for him. Oleg covers her with his jacket. Sonia pushes the man away and asks him to leave. Oleg tells her she does not love Victor, and she should be with him instead. When Victor walks in, he asks Oleg to leave. He has something to discuss with Sonia. Victor tells Sonia that he does not think either of them really loved the other. Nothing could have changed their feelings. Not the marriage or the spell. Sonia is surprised to hear about the spell. Zhenya makes arrangements at the church. When Zhenya was at the spellcaster's house, the old lady who had saved them, the spellcaster's mother, told Zhenya that she cannot reverse the spell. Her daughter owed a debt to the spirits for messing around with dark magic. The woman had thought she could pay her debt by offering them Zhenya's love, but it was not true. She failed in that, and now the vengeful spirits are back. The lady told Zhenya that even though making pacts with the devil comes with prices, he can be tricked. She instructed Zhenya to gather everyone who was involved in the wedding and perform the ceremony once again, but in reverse. This would only work if everyone came to the wedding of their own free will. Otherwise, the demon would not stop until he got her soul. When Victor tells Sonia the truth about everything, the woman refuses to help Zhenya. She storms out of there. She finds Oleg waiting for her, but he has his back to her. She then sees that the man inside is not Oleg. Oleg is standing outside the room, trying to get the door open. The man inside turns around, and Sonya sees that he has a white mask on his face. He attacks Sonya, but Oleg manages to open the door. Victor, too, arrives there and sees the hysterical woman on the floor. He knows it is too late now. At the church, Genya prepares for the reverse spell. She is sitting near the altar when suddenly candles light up at the altar. She can also see a figure clad in black standing there. As Genya approaches it with scared steps, she realizes that the figure is a hanger, and the black clothes are the priest's uniform. She sighs a breath of relief and hangs the uniform a different way. She turns to leave, but then feels something behind her. When she turns around, the uniform is hanging the way it had been before, like a person standing in the dark. When Genya reaches to fix it, a hand comes out of there and grabs her hand. The woman screams and runs away, but a black cloth covers her, arresting her mid-motion. The spirit tries to possess Genya, and the woman struggles. The spellcaster's mother arrives just in time to banish the spirit once again, but only temporarily. Behind the lady, Victor, Sonya, and Oleg arrive. Victor rushes to Genya's aid. Everyone involved in the wedding has arrived now. At Genya's mother's place, the lady puts little Polina to sleep. The lady in the church warns the people that the spirit does not like to be tricked. Everyone needs to be there of their will. She starts chanting. Back at home, the window Kirill had boarded up for Genya's mother that day starts to come apart. The nails fall out of the plank. While Genya performs the reverse ritual, the demon hurts her. The woman tries to go on, but the invisible spirit pushes her to the floor, and then the woman begins to levitate. When Genya's mother awakes from her nap, she notices that Polina is not in her crib anymore. The plank on the window falls. The woman is startled. She hears the baby cooing and looks under the crib for Polina, but instead, she sees someone entering from the window. Back at the church, Victor rushes to Genya's aid. Sonya has vanished. Suddenly, she appears behind them, holding the intertwined candles, and laughing sinisterly. She blows out the candles, and darkness takes over the church. The demon is now inside Sonya. It jumps and pushes Victor to the floor, suffocating him. The old lady starts to chant again to banish the demon, but the demon is stronger. It takes the lady's cane away, breaks it in half, and then hurts her. Oleg tries to pull Sonya off Victor. The two men tackle the spasming woman to the floor and hold her there. The old lady manages to stand up. She grabs her cane and casts a banishing spell on Sonya. The demon exits Sonya's body, but now another spirit is inside her. It is Genya's mother. She informs Genya that Polina is missing. Worried for her daughter, Genya rushes to her mom's house with Victor. When she gets there, she cannot find anyone, but she sees a sculpted white mask on the table. She instantly recognizes it. She knows where her mother and her daughter are. Victor and Genya arrive at Kirill's studio. All the sculptures are covered in dark cloth. The room is completely dark and eerie. Something moves behind the two people. They turn around to find nothing. As they make their way in, they find a figure seated atop a chair. It is covered in a dark cloth. Victor unveils it, and Genya finds her mother there. The lady has been rendered immobile. As Victor helps her, Genya goes in search of her daughter. Genya finds Polina and her mother hiding underneath the table. Then who was the woman with Victor? The demon. The demon takes the shape of a sculpted Kirill. He attacks Victor. Genya helps her mother and her daughter to get out of the basement studio, while Victor struggles with the demon. The man puts up a good fight, but the demon, being stronger, overpowers him. He grabs Victor and holds him up by the neck, ready to destroy him, when Genya yells at him to stop. She pledges herself to the demon, just like she had promised. Pleased, the demon releases Victor, and the man loses consciousness as he falls to the ground. It then vanishes inside the bathtub full of white plaster. Genya kisses an unconscious Victor goodbye, and promises him that everything will be fine. She then climbs inside the bathtub. Right before she submerges herself, she has a vision of a future that can never be hers. In the vision, her daughter, Polina, is a little grown. She is at the park with Victor and her, watching Polina play around. The three look like the perfect family Genya always wanted, but could never have. Her fate is now sealed. Genya mourns her future and accepts her destiny as she drowns in the white plaster. Genya is wearing a black wedding dress and holding two intertwined candles. She walks inside the church full of sculpted mannequins. They stand as audience to the union before them. Genya walks up to the altar where Kirill is waiting for her.